multiplication. Okay, so what happens when we get integers that have exponents? So we're going to kind of review what happens when it's a positive integer. Well, here, if we had 4 squared, we could rewrite that as 4 times itself twice, right? Which would give us 16. Okay, so 4 squared would give us 16. What do you think would happen if they change that positive 4 to a negative 4? Okay, and notice that we put it in parentheses, meaning that negative is going to stick with the 4. Well, if I were to write it out like I did in this first example, it would look like this: negative 4 times negative 4, because we needed 2 of those, right? Now we're back to what we did previously. So we can go ahead and we can count our negative signs. 1, 2. So there's 2 negative signs, which would make a positive answer of 4 times 4 is 16. Take note, our exponent told us how many negative signs were going to be there, because that negative was included with that 4. Okay, because it was included, we can kind of use that exponent to help us count. Are we going to have an even number or an odd number? Well, 2 is an even number. That told us we had 2 negative signs. Okay, so if you need to visually write it out like this, then go ahead and do so. Some of you will be able to use that shortcut of just thinking, okay, 2 is an even number. So there's an even number, or there's 2 negative signs. So let's try a few of these. Oops. How about this one? Negative 3 in parentheses to the third. So if you have to, you can think of it like this. Negative 3 times itself 3 times. Okay, so now if I count my negatives, there's 1, 2, 3. So 3 negatives tells me it's going to be a negative answer. And now I just think 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. Okay, some of you will be able to go through and work off of like this, 3 to the third power is 27, and then use that little exponent to say, well, 3 is an odd number, it's going to be a negative answer. You have to decide what works for you. Some of you may need this step, and some of you will be able to go ahead and just do this part and use your exponent. Okay, so let's try another one. I'll actually just pull all 3 of these out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at the first one of negative 2 to the 4th power. Those of you that need to see it would look like this. We have the negative 2 times itself 4 times. Now if we count our negatives, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's an even number, so it's a positive answer. And I'm going to put that down just so that you know that I did go through and check that. And then if we multiply 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 would give us 16. We end up with positive 16. Okay, this second one looks a little bit different. Okay, so when we go ahead and look at that opposite of the negative 4 squared, we're not going to work with this until we finish out the problem, because when we work with this, this exponent is only applying to whatever is inside of our parentheses. So it does not apply to that negative. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and solve this part first. So if I were to think of negative 4 squared, well, my exponent tells me there's 2 negatives. So it's a positive answer originally. So 4 squared would give me 16. Now, because that parenthesis is on the outside, or sorry, that negative is on the outside, I now apply that. So my final answer would be negative 16. Really what this is saying is, what's the opposite of negative 4 squared? Well, negative 4 squared we said is 16, and the opposite would be negative 16. Okay, so let's go ahead and have you try this one. So you're going to simplify this first, and then bring down your negative onto your answer. You may have to simplify after that even. So if we look at our exponent, 3 is going to tell me that there's 3 negatives, because it's negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So 3 negatives tells me it's a negative answer. And then 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. Remember last week when we worked with this? What's our new answer going to be? Positive 27. Okay, and you can't simplify this first because that exponent on the outside is only applying to what's inside the parentheses. So you can't take that shortcut first. You have to solve any exponent before putting those two negatives together. That's why we didn't put them together until this step right here. Okay.